Hi, I'm Matt from hockeyreviews.ca, and this is, as you can see, the Bauer Mach blocker review. So it's sort of a snapshot review because it's not my set, but at the same time, I got to use these on ice. I also got to use it against the puck machine. So it's basically a review without more the durability aspects of it, just because I can only really use it for about three or four skates I got in with it and the puck machine stuff. So this is also going to be a bit different than a normal review of what I've done with this, kind of like what I'm doing with the genetic line, because I don't have the hyperlights to kind of go against this. I only have the ultrasonic. So while I'll compare this to the ultrasonic, I won't do a comparison to the Mach and the hyperlight. To see that, just go watch my ultrasonic and hyperlight comparison, or go watch my hyperlight video and make comparisons that way to decide kind of where you want to go with that. So before we jump into this review was only possible because of Front Row Sports. So huge thanks to them. They're a retailer that is close to me and also has a store in the United States. They had this set, which is a demo set they allow customers to try out and to check out. And just so they have ideas for sizing and stuff like that, they let me to try this out, to do some videos on it, to make this content. So if you're in the market for any goalie gear and you live in the United States and Canada, they have stores in both. Check out the links in the description to their websites. Tell them that you came from me. It would be greatly appreciated. Like I said, this review wouldn't have happened without them. Otherwise, if you want me to review gear like this, please reach out to the companies like Bauer Goalie and Bauer on social media. Let them know. This doesn't always happen, so I got pretty lucky with this case, and it would be greatly appreciated. Now, if you want to support the channel so I keep making more content and doing more real reviews like this, check out the link in the description to Patreon and buy me a coffee. Everything through there always comes back in the channel, so I keep making more content like this and making more reviews. Now, right off the bat, we are going to talk about the graphics and aesthetics of this, which obviously aren't important, but I'm going to call them out. And it's a bit hard for me to do because this is a custom graphic, obviously. This is my Odin graphic that I wanted to do with the Pro Custom Digiprint. But we can look at the Mach graphic itself, and I think is pretty awesome. It is like 3 pieces. There's 1, 2, and then I think there's another one here that does it. So this is kind of the inside, and I believe it's over here. I'll overlay what it looks like. I think it's a pretty solid graphic. I love the details in it. I wish Bauer would do more color zones so you can do more, but you can go the Pro Custom option if you want to go that route. But the thing I really like about this is I love how Bauer still does like the indenting on the graphics and the skin. This is a new skin. We'll talk about that in a second. But I love the little details, which is kind of like look like airplane and aviation details. This is the Mach, so obviously you have some of that idea behind it. I also love how it goes all the way to this piece now, where before that was just like a Gen Pro piece right there, and it was a cutout, and it never really mapped all the way, but it does go there, and the graphic does come all the way over here, which is very nice. Obviously not an important thing, but I do love the look of that, and I think they did a decent job on this one. I think Bauer honestly has been doing a pretty good job. Even the 1S I liked, but the 2S was pretty bad. But after that, everything has been pretty solid, and I think this is another iteration of it. Now, here's something that's pretty crazy to me, and I don't know how they did this or how they did this and if it's actually legal. This blocker is bigger than this one. As you can see, these are lined up, and you do have it taller right there. And when you line them up like this, there is a gap of that right there. So this blocker is bigger somehow. So when you're looking at it like this, and when you line them up like this, the shape looks basically identical. So I'm not sure how they got a longer length out of this, but it is ever so slightly longer, which is kind of interesting. And I mean, not a bad thing if they manage to get more length out of it and size out of it. Hopefully it's still the NHL legal. And speaking of the board, this new skin is their Cortex something. I can't remember exactly what it's called. From what I have been told, it is more consistent compared to the old Cortex. It definitely feels a lot more slippery. So to the touch, it feels a lot more slippery there. I also heard Rebounds, which is weird. I don't think this skin is really going to make a big difference on Rebounds. I'm a firm believer it's everything underneath here that makes a big difference on Rebounds, but we'll talk about Rebounds in a second. But I wanted to call it out because that is a new skin. It does feel totally different than this. And by totally different, it's just way more slippery all the way through. So besides the board right there, we look on the side, and everything here is pretty similar as well. You still have that basically same design on the sidewall, and I can't see really any changes whatsoever. Still have that index finger protection there, which we'll talk about in a second. As you can see, cuff is a big difference. How this thumb kind of lines up is different as well. The other part here is this one does have a thumb pillow, which was a custom option that I added in. The other interesting piece is there is this little piece right here that's like an extra thumb pillow. It is connected to the cuff here. That is gone now, so that is totally gone completely. This whole design is way more open because of the removal of that cuff, and this piece does come back. They obviously took it away for this because it didn't have anything going here. which connects to the sidewall and brings it all the way over here. And that basically acts as your cuff, but obviously a lot more open. You can see the strapping on here is also considerably different because this one is much more streamlined just around this piece rather than looping into the side piece right here. Finally, look at the side piece over here, and it's pretty much the same. The only big difference there is that cuff. The palms on these are so similar, I'm just gonna say they're basically the same. The one on my Ultrasonic actually feels softer to the touch than what is on the Mach, but the Mach is still super comfortable, and it's just like a normal beige Nash like material right there. And how the hand works and everything is really similar too. You still have that like spandex all the way through. Super comfortable design, basically the most comfortable palm design I say on the market. Now another piece about the palm, this palm did have like padding right here, and it's kind of on the extra layer all right there, and that continues on with the Mach, which has this kind of cool little Mach logo right here, but there is padding through this, and that basically it's all just right there. I think this is just a double layer, but the padding you can definitely feel there's a little bit of foam for dampening on the stick, and it still has that adjustable finger pieces through here, just like the old one, where you can adjust this for tightness so you can get a more loose finger, or you tighten it up and it's tighter and stays more in like the coverage zone. The place they did upgrade though is this cover piece, so you can see that flap is a lot bigger than what is on the old one. And what that does is when you put your hands around the stick, you can see how excellent that fingertip protection is. And I gotta say, at this point, Bauer has the best fingertip protection in the business with this. That flap is massive, plus with the adjustable pieces on the fingers, you can kind of dial that down how you want it, and it covers a lot. Huge fan of this design. This not only stops you from like the odd puck that you miss that comes under here, but from people jamming, gives you a little bit more protection on your fingernails and stuff like that, as well as when you're like kind of like hugging the post. I notice a lot when I'm hugging the post on my right side, my sticks there, fingers can get jammed right there. It hurts still even with this, but this does add a nice little piece so it's not like your bare nail straight against the post. It's a really nice little feature, and I'm really like how they do it. They also have, as you can see, sloped finger protection here, which they did on the previous one, and this one changed, but we'll talk about that in 1 second. But that slope design and overall design is excellent and does a really good job on this blocker. And as you can see, the fingers are exposed more on this old design compared to the new one. It was still excellent finger protection, and I never really noticed like me hitting this, and it's one of the best on the market. That is a small change that I'm happy they made just to make it a little bit better. One thing I did notice of here too is when you close your hand around, this piece can get stuck on your thumb. Now, it's not an issue, but it can happen. And as you can see, and you have the finger kind of getting in the way a bit, and you have some exposed fingers right there. But when you put the new one on, it basically always works to go under that thumb and doesn't really get in the way at all. It does show you how much more exposed your thumb is though compared to that old design, because it did have that pillow and kind of wrapped a bit more. So obviously from pucks and stuff from here, your thumb is still covered, but from the underside, again, this is more of a rare thing, but it would be more exposed that way. As you can see right there, where you do have that pillow coming, it's still exposed, but that just does come over a little bit more without that gap. Not a huge thing, but I just want to call it out. We will show more of the index finger protection in a second with the stick, but I want to call out a really nice piece here. One, this is not important at all, but the liner on this is really cool, how it has like that digital kind of looking, it looks like a circuit board. But the other big thing is how it says XRD right here. Now, this piece right here is pretty soft on the inside, so I'm not sure if there's XRD right there, but it feels like there might be, and it's much softer than what is on the inside of this piece right here. Now, the other part though is this piece is super soft to the touch on both sides, so you can fold it as you can see. So I'm pretty sure this is that Pour-On XRD foam right in here on that index finger protection. And while the old one also had a soft piece right here, and I think this might be Pour-On, at least this piece definitely feels Pour-On. This part might have been, I'm not positive, but this is so much thinner and less like protective and substantial than what is on this one. This one is nice and thick, and it honestly feels pretty beefy. It's great. So that is really going to help dampen impacts from pucks that come over here. So I love to see that on there, and it is a nice feature. Perhaps I would like to see a tiny piece of plastic on the very tip part, but I'm sure Bauer did that for a reason, just in case that happens to hit your finger like that. That way the plastic and then Pour-On would be a nicer overall design. But that's me super nitpicking. This is basically the best index finger protection there is on the market. They could also add like padding right here for it, but again, that's nitpicking. And to continue with the Pour-On piece, I'm pretty sure There is pour on the back of the fingers as well, so you can feel a really soft foam right at the top there. They did this in the past. I saw some Ultrasonics where this piece ripped off and you could see the pour on in there. So I'm pretty sure that continues on there for protection from pucks right here. And pucks do hit there. You can see it under here. And there was a puck mark right there as well. And again, Bauer has excellent finger protection there, and it's very impressive. Now going on to the index finger protection, you can see the design right here. A tiny gap here, but this can be adjusted down, so I'll show how that works in a second. But it does do a good solid coverage job, and you have basically this layer plus that pour-on piece. So you do have a decent protection there. I still always use my paddle wedges, so just so this doesn't get hit no matter what. But it is a solid index finger protection design, and Bauer does, again, a good job on there. Again, solid design, and pucks really can't get under this piece. They can hit that piece, and that will transfer into your fingers, but you have that softer piece behind there, kind of making that more protective. So a good design. And the way this is, you can Velcro this out and take it out totally if you want to, or adjust it a little bit, as you can see right there. So I adjusted this down. You can see more of the Velcro exposed just at the tip. So that way you get a kind of an idea. So now it's touching all the way where the back isn't. Again, puck isn't going to get past that piece. It's going to hit that piece. So it's still going to protect your fingers. Solid design. Maybe you could make this come down a little bit more, but overall the design is really good and I don't really see a need to change it. But of note, when I did put this down more, I can definitely feel it hitting the stick when I'm kind of moving like this. So make note, you kind of have to adjust that to find what works for you. And if you do have that type of person that angles their stick, so it kind of sticks on an angle like this with the blocker, it covers even better. But that, unfortunately for me, is just like this. Final change on that index finger. The finger protection here was segmented, as you can see, so this could move on you. The new one is not segmented anymore, but you can see it still has that slope. So for the Ultrasonic, when it goes down, that's basically how it is. So like, you can feel the index finger area pad kind of hitting the ice first, but when you move it, you can see there's no gap at all, and it's pretty good. If you lean over again, it raises, but natural, it's just like that. And then when you go to the Mach, you can see how, like natural, it does stay up a bit. It doesn't stay up enough to the puck to go under, but it does stay up because that kind of index finger part. You can jam it more so it's closer, but just natural how it's doing, it's kind of like that. So the heel is up a bit because that finger is a little bit different of a design, but it's pretty good all the way through. And you really have to like lean over, straight up, it's fine. This is where I feel like there's a slight difference. I wonder if it's because of this piece right here and this just kind of folds out of the way. Totally. That would also explain why this isn't a plastic, because if it was a plastic, this might get in the way in that position. But with the Mach, because you have that just single design there, when you try to go into the paddle down, this is coming off a little bit, and that part is what's stopping it. This is getting in the way. This piece is just getting in the way a little bit, whereas the other one just collapsed under there. So something to be wary about. I'm not sure if that's the best design. I like this for the clamshell being more protective, but when it doesn't fold, it kind of gets in the way a little bit from that paddle down. So maybe with breaking in, this will kind of soften up. So onto the sidewall, which is basically this piece right here. Bauer had the best sidewall design with this blocker, which barely moved at all. As you can see, barely moves. So pucks are going to hit this and it's just going to stop. It's not going to like squeak in. Softer foams, and I think there's curve in here, but companies that use like softer foams and even just like not curve, this flexes, and pucks theoretically could hit this, kind of squeeze in between your kind of side and right there. This design was excellent, held up really well, uses this thumb padding and everything to kind of act with your wrist to stop it from going anywhere. Unfortunately with the Mach, I feel like this is one of the downgrades on it, because there's no real, you can see how open this thumb is and there's really nothing there. Some padding there and everything, but you can see how much more that flexes. So I don't know if they took the curve out here or what, but it feels way softer to see how I can bend that, whereas this one doesn't bend like at all. It's way stiffer. So this got considerably softer on the sidewall, and as you can see, that flex. So I think that is kind of a downgrade here. I'm going to guess they did this because of weight reasons, because this blocker is really light. We'll talk about that in a second. So I'm guessing that's done for weight reasons because that is way softer than what this is. But this definitely feels like it's a more beefy and sturdy part. I didn't really feel anything on side impacts. There's that big gap between your thumb and everything too. So it kind of has to flex a lot to get anywhere there, but everything felt really good. And the thumb padding right here is fine. So I had no issues with that. It was just a lot more open. Can see how kind of the inner padding is and everything. This is kind of a similar idea. It's just this cuff piece is totally gone. As you can see, just this piece all the way around, but it's considerably less than what this whole thing is. And it's one of the biggest improvements of this glove. And the reason being, we take a look at this and it's a little daunting, I would say. I do like this little leather tab so you can pull the blocker on. And you do have your wrist strap in here, which will kind of show off just like that. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple, but that tab is great. So you put your hand in, grab that tab, pull the blocker on, and you're good to go, or just good like that, like I always do. Regardless, Bauer did a lot of things right here, including having a Velcro on this little tab. So this part doesn't kind of stick off. So I like what they did there. And the Velcro isn't exposed here. It's on this side of things, which is also very nice. Bauer did that in the past though. So they're kind of on the same idea and they did the right thing. Now it's daunting because how open it is. You're like, oh, am I unprotected? It definitely feels unprotected, but when you're using it, when I haven't noticed anything at all. So as you can see, here is kind of how the old cuff works with like the protection and everything, with the coverage. Very good coverage, and nothing is ever going to be exposed. And then under, as you can see, it looks like that. Okay. And then with the Mach, you can see how like there's nothing there, right? But your chest protector is basically still covering. It's just removing more of that double overlap. But you can see the difference there. So the reason why this is amazing is because you now basically have full wrist mobility in there. The wrist just opens up totally. You have like zero restrictions. I'm trying to get this on camera that actually looks right. You have basically zero restrictions. You can go at like a full 90 degree. There is a little bit of this getting in the way, like absolutely minimal, as you can see. And I don't think you're really ever going to go more than that because that's me pushing my wrist down basically and flexing it more than 90 degrees. That is fantastic. For comparison, the old one got stuck really quick, as you can also see right here. So you do this and the wrist just gets stuck because this gets in the way and this gets in the way, and it's just not nearly as good. I have to really push it down to get that 90 degrees, and I can't go past 90 degrees. But when you move it, normally it was just kind of in the way and it was disappointing. I liked the old design better because the old design didn't get kind of caught on this and it opened up more. It's what I don't like about the two-piece Hyperlite. It's what I didn't like about the Hyperlite, and I called out on the Hyperlite blocker. But this solves that totally by being super open, just like moving so much easier. And another view of this, just right there, just opens up totally, and like I don't really feel any restrictions. I can feel it more on my wrist bending than the actual cuff getting in the way. And for the comparison, that I can feel this getting in the way basically instantly. So a huge improvement in terms of overall cuff design and idea behind it. And the final thing this leads to is how much lighter this blocker is. This thing is so light compared to this. This blocker was already a very light blocker, but this thing feels like it's a whole another level of lightness. And that's pretty impressive. I never felt this was heavy whatsoever when using it, and picking up, it feels crazy light. And you go like this, you're like, wow, pretty impressive. Now, with that said, I think they might have gone too much because I still think this should be as stiff as this was. I don't understand why you would do this if not for just weight savings. So a bit disappointing there, but it's crazy light and it felt crazy light. Did it feel crazy light on my hand when using? I didn't notice this as much as I noticed like my Optic 2 to Genetic 5. I didn't notice the change from these as much. Yes, it's considerably lighter, and you pick them up next to each other, you're going to notice. When using it, it wasn't like a monumental change going from one to the other. It felt better, but it wasn't crazy better and like I need this because it's so light better. Now, the other thing I want to call out on this is because I was a bit skeptical of them going so light with this, because I think they did something to the board here too. I don't know what it is, like underneath the board. I'm sure there's still curve on the outside, and then I feel like that board might be different. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the marketing for it. Now, with that said, I was a bit concerned because of how light this was, that protection might be lacking. The Ultrasonic, I still feel is a step back from the 1S blocker I have. And the reason being is I can feel shots through this. So foam in here is either not dense enough or something, but this glove isn't even like broken down. It hasn't been used enough to be broken down. And I felt shots through this from day one. I've never felt a shot in a game that hurt. I just felt them and I could feel it. This one I was a bit concerned with and felt absolutely nothing when using it on ice, which is a huge compliment from me and a huge improvement from this. But I wanted to see how well this new Mach actually did compared to the Ultrasonic. So I brought it on the puck machine and I fired a 70 miles per hour puck on it. And honestly, that's where most of these marks are coming from, was that. And I can say this was so much more protective than this. I felt every single shot coming through here. Yes, you still feel it here, but it wasn't like a little bit of pain. I just knew where it hit. This was pain. One of the shots I felt actually hurt my knuckle, and my knuckle was red after taking it out. Through a blocker. That's surprising. That's like the first time I felt that on any of the blockers I've ever had, from what I can remember, and that was through this. And Bauer used to be the best at it, and I'm gonna say they're still really good with blockers with this, but my 1S was better than this and has held up better than this has during that time. And again, haven't felt any shots through the 1S, felt shots through that. So that is saying something, and pretty disappointing with this one, but happy to say the exact same shots on this one felt considerably better with like no pain through it. So protection on this has been increased over the Ultrasonic, which is a nice thing to see. I can only show this off with how much I use it. The Mach is simply the best rebounding blocker I've ever used. Now here's where I'm coming back to that skin piece. I don't know if they changed the board on here. I'm assuming the foams in here are different than what's on here just because of how light this is. I can't confirm it. I'm sure one of the people who are in tight with Bauer people, whatever, will confirm that. But I will say this, the rebounds on these flew off, absolutely flew off. It's insane, the rebounds on these. And I'll show some videos from my puck machine too. I honestly couldn't control them in my net. They were so crazy. And it's just how Bauer is, and their rebounds are next level. So I don't know if this skin is actually doing anything from there. I heard someone mention that the skin does better rebounds. I have a hard time believe something that thin is going to really make a difference, and something that's like not hard is going to make a difference. If this was a hard piece all the way through, kind of like a plastic or a curved piece, and it was that thin, maybe I would believe it. But when it's just like not nylon, but like when it's just a material that you can bend and like that, I have a hard time believing that skin is doing anything for puck like rebounding. Now, with that said, the thing I mentioned that was really good about the Brine's genetic blocker was controllability of the rebounds. Basically, anytime this was in tight to my side, and I didn't really try to do anything, just blocked, I knew exactly where the puck was going. It was going the same spot every time. Not the case at all with this. Now, that's kind of the caveat of a big rebounding blocker. It kind of goes everywhere. Very much the case of this. Rebounds off this thing were just basically, I didn't know where they were going as much. Yes, it still has this curve, but I didn't find anything on here to kind of bounce back down in a consistent fashion. Again, I'm sure you can like get really good with this using it over and over so you know where stuff is, but the genetic blocker on that just works so well and just pushing things without me trying to do anything and just like getting in tight to block shots. This one, not the case. They were kind of all over the place. This thing just shoots rocket rebounds off of it. And Bauer, once again, is just crushing it in the rebound department compared to everyone else and basically leaving everyone else behind. Finally, overall balance. Like I said, I never felt this blocker to be heavy or anything, or like poorly balanced or anything like that. I did like using my genetic 5 blocker more than this just because the weight and the balance felt a little bit better. Same with the True 12.2. That blocker felt amazing for balance. This was fine and it felt good, and I was really happy to use it. It didn't feel heavy, but it also didn't feel like it was super lightweight or anything. It just felt fine on you. A little bit of movement on there because I don't do my wrist straps tight just because of how the palm is attached to the board, so you have a bit of movement, but it felt fine and it was pretty solid all around. And rebounds kept like the blocker pretty close, and I felt controlled all the time. This blocker is balance-wise kind of crazy because of how light it is. And it also kind of just feels like it's a little more sloppy. Now I can tighten that up all the way and it feels a bit less sloppy, but then you do lose some wrist mobility, but not a ton. But with the lack of weight here, this almost feels like it's just not as like controlled on your hand compared to old one. While I feel like this one is almost more controllable when I was playing with it and making saves with it. And I feel like some other ones like the 2-piece is a little bit better for that. Well, the original 1X and even the 1S, just it feels more controlled to me. The kind of, when pucks kind of hit this, I felt like this was kind of moving a lot more than I was expecting. That also can be a thing because like this could be a tighter palm. It's all basically spandex back here and a little stretchy, so it's not like the craziest tight palm, but it's not like a big thing. It just, I think the weight kind of adds to that. The balance is still good when you're using it and everything. I just felt like it was a little loosey-goosey for me, and I wasn't the biggest, like I didn't think that was the best feature of this. I feel like I was more comfortable in some other blockers. Again, could use it fine, and that's basically me just nitpicking that though. Overall, the Bauer Mach blocker is honestly kind of pushing the boundaries of blockers. Totally getting rid of that cuff is something totally new, and I got to give him props for doing that. I still think there was a few steps backwards, specifically with this piece right here, but they increased protection. They made it way lighter. Somehow the rebounds feel better than what they were before. And all the little changes here have like the best fingertip protection in the business right here, and pretty good here, even though a little paddle down issues there. So I got to give Bauer a ton of credit for what they're doing with this. I'm not sure if going this lightweight and stuff is totally the best thing. I still feel like this was a little bit better on your hands for like when pucks hit it, but that's me super nitpicking. This is still excellent. Easy recommend to this blocker. I think it's awesome. Bauer deserves a ton of credit for what they're making, like small but significant changes on this entire line, and it's super impressive. And remember, this video only happened because of Front Row Sports. Check them out in the description. They're in Canada and the United States, so if you need to buy hockey gear, check out them. Tell them you're from me. It'd be greatly appreciated, so hopefully more videos like this can come in the future. Otherwise, if you want me to review more gear like this, like say, for example, CCM Axis 2, reach out to the companies on social media like CCM, or if you want to see the True 20.2, reach out to True. Let them know you want to see me review the gear and do all of stuff like this and make content on it. It'd be greatly appreciated, and something might happen where I get a demo set like this and be able to try stuff out. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Remember to subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Links are in the description. If you want to support the channel, check out Patreon, buy me a coffee. Everything through there comes right back into the channel, so I keep making more content and doing videos like this. Thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.